614 Startups Nation, welcome to another episode of the 614 Startups Podcast. My name is Elio Harmon, your host, and I'm back again. Welcome back. We're going to do what we normally do, which is the news of the week, a little bit of social media, and some events, all right? And this week, we actually have a lot of news to break. If you haven't seen the stories, we're going to break it right here for you. But first, I'd like to shout out our sponsors, Nationwide. Support for 614 Startups comes from Nationwide. Nationwide's mission is to protect people, businesses, and futures with extraordinary care. To help fulfill that mission, Nationwide is looking to invest its $350 million venture capital investment fund in insurtechs that will help them create new and exciting products and solutions to meet the needs of their customers. If you're interested in partnering with Nationwide's venture capital team, visit www.nationwideventures.com to learn more. Again, www.nationwideventures.com. Nationwide is on your side. All right, let's get busy. First story of the day. Good friends of the show, Rev1, congratulations are in order. I saw this story come across in my inbox today. Rev1 launches new $20 million all-private venture capital fund. More money to be deployed in the city is always good news. Look at Tom Walker over there, man, looking dapper. Congratulations. Of course, Carrie Ghosh on the break, staff reporter over at Columbus Business First, always doing good work in the startup community. Rev1 Ventures has launched a $20 million venture capital fund with several new institutional investors and no money from Ohio Third Frontier. So typically they'll have a little bit of a kick in from Ohio Third Frontier, but this particular round was subscribed with all investors. So big names here, right? Huntington Bank, US Bank, University of Dayton, and some cash from Drive Capital. Sure, Drive Capital is a little flush right now. They got a little bit of money to throw around. So I see Drive Capital getting in there and spreading the wealth, all right? So a couple of repeats here who are a part of this round, so that's good news for Rev1. And this is the quote that I really wanted to point out here from Tom Walker. It shows that the model works, right? There's something that they're doing over there that institutional investors are seeing, and they want to continue to invest in. Other notable returning investors for Fund 2, all the big names in the city, right? AEP, Cardinal Health, Nationwide, Ohio State, et cetera, et cetera. So big news for the team over at Rev1. Again, if you're a founder and you have a startup and you've been thinking about ways to get engaged with Rev1, of course, they're always open. They're always talking to entrepreneurs, but they have a very, very valuable educational opportunity in their customer learning lab. So visit the website, search for Customer Learning Lab, apply to it if you haven't participated in the past. I've participated in Customer Learning Lab before. Very, very valuable, helping you flush out your idea. So congratulations to the team at Rev1. All right, big news for the city. All right, now, number 2, our boy, Denzel Porteous, is on the cover of Columbus Business First, 614 Startups alumni, and the CEO of Pride Fund 1. It is Pride Month. And on the cover, they're looking dapper. Stonewall marches forward. He is a big advocate in the LGBTQ plus community. And so getting his perspective on what's happening in the community as well as in the business community is very important. So super proud of Denzel, man. That guy has more jobs than anybody else I know. I thought I had a lot of jobs. Denzel has a lot of jobs. And if you want to really hear the background story on Denzel, of course, he's an alumnus. You can go to the 614startups.com. You could get his podcast. He was season 7, episode 4. And on that episode, we spent a lot of time talking about his background as well as his leadership over at Pride Fund 1. Man, look at that cover, man. This dude is killing it on covers right now. Congratulations, Denzel. Big shout out to you. All right, so that's the news. We're gonna shift over and do our normal routine when it comes to social media. Guys, we want you to be engaged with us in our community. The upcoming guest, Ron, and I are going to talk about social media, the importance of social media for business, the importance to put content out on social media. We're not doing this for our health. This is where you can go, one-stop shop, to find out what's happening in Columbus, Ohio, by checking out where we are most active, which is on LinkedIn. Only makes sense it would be on LinkedIn because we are a business podcast. All right, now, what are we up to? 1,427 followers. That's huge. I think when we really started promoting, we started at 0 3 years ago, so you can see the growth there. But what kind of content can you find? So shout out to our boys, our people, our friends over at Dickinson Wright, big supporter of the show. If you need legal advice, check out Dickinson Wright. Also, find out what's going on in terms of learning opportunities in the community. And one of our partners, Book and Street, has partnered with Innovate New Albany. Oh, actually, that was this morning. That's already gone. But hey, again, you wouldn't have missed it if you were following us on LinkedIn. So this is a great learning opportunity. And then finally, coming up on June the 14th at 6 p.m., another 614 Startups alum. Harley Blakeman used to be here in Columbus, moved his company Honest Jobs out to Boulder, Colorado, I believe. But he's going to be on Startup Grind in a special shot. Listen, there are collaborations all over this thing. So Harley is an alum. Startup Grind is led here in Columbus by Ryan Frederick. They're of AWH, they're partners, and he is an alum on the show. And then if you attend, you get free coffee from a partner of the show, Entrepreneurs Brew. Listen, we are plugged into the community, all right? We're all over that event. So register. Harley has a very interesting story. This man was convicted. I believe he's a felon. I don't think he was convicted on a misdemeanor. He was convicted on a felony. He has turned his life around, and now he's helping other people who have a history of convictions that might struggle to find employment. Honest Jobs helps place those people. So you got to go to this. You got to attend this. You'll be inspired. You'll learn lessons of being an entrepreneur. I got to get him back on the show, find out why he left Columbus. Harley, holla at me, man. We want you back. We need you back. All right, so that's what's going on social media. So follow us on LinkedIn and on other platforms. We're sharing this content across our network as well. All right, let's talk events. Now, last year we threw our first event, which was the Ohio Next Energy Summit in partnership with Bright Energy Innovators. That's coming up again in October, but this month, June 22nd, we have an event and we've partnered with Bernstein, one of our sponsors. And this is actually for the nonprofit community. And it's entitled Making an Impact in Columbus, Innovation Insights for the Nonprofit Community and the Founders Who Support Them. It's gonna be on Tuesday, June the 22nd from, 10:30 to 11:30. And it's hosted by Bernstein and us. Introduction by Natalie Moretz, alum on the show. I will be moderating, and we have some great guests. Clara Gola with Bernstein, Laura McDonald with the Benefactor Group, and Elizabeth Martinez, President and CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters. So if you operate a not-for-profit, right, a nonprofit organization, you need to attend this, because at 614 Startups, we're not just concerned about the business community. We believe that there are 3 pillars that make for a healthy city: a well-run government, thriving businesses, and a healthy not-for-profit community to fill in the gaps, right? What government can't do and what the business community can't do, not-for-profits fill in the gap, and we want to have healthy not-for-profits. So that's why we decided to collaborate on that event. So I will see all of you on June the 22nd, all right? Last but not least, this might be another content stream for us, because I get so busy that I don't spend as much time as I would like to read. One of my favorite books in the world is The Founder's Manual right here. All right. And we actually have the Founder's Manual on our website for sale. The Founder's Manual was authored by Ryan Frederick. And I'm thinking about doing a book club / study group where we're either going to be reviewing a book with the author, right? Practical tips from the book. It's going to be on Tuesday nights, I think, between 5:30 and 6:30. And then I'm also going to be bringing on instructors. So just imagine for yourself a class on pitching investors by, let's say, Tom Walker of Rev 1. If you're part of that group, you'd be able to attend. Tom Walker is going to help us understand what it takes to get that VC money. Maybe it's project management, taught by Derek DeHart, right? Kind of our product guy in Columbus, Ohio, cut his teeth at Cover My Meds, and then at Root Insurance. I mean, the guy is the go-to for products. So building kind of a learning structure on a regular basis for people who, because they're ripping and running their business, and families don't get a chance to really sharpen the iron, right? They're always working. They don't get the time to sharpen the iron. So check out this book. I think this is going to be the first thing that we do as part of our study group. Read this book with Ryan, and Ryan is going to teach us what it takes, like the subtitle says, a guidebook for becoming a successful entrepreneur. So visit the website, buy the book. If you're not a founder and you want to give it to a client or a friend or your boss, you can also buy it and gift it to someone else. All right. We did the news. We did social media. We invited you to an event, and we have a book for you so you can sharpen your sword. All right. So thank you so much for joining me. We got a very, very special guest. Stay tuned for Ron Sheth of Huumanize. 614 Startups Nation, welcome to another episode of the 614 Startups Podcast. We are back again in action in my favorite seat in the world, and I got a very special guest, my man Ron Sheth of Huumanize. Ron, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right, man. So legendary Instagram, a lot of you, a lot of the family. You give us a peer into your world. But for people who don't know you, let's start with a little bit of your backstory, your background. Where are you from? How do you come to be in Columbus? Love to learn about you.
Yeah. So again, thanks for having me. And so I was, I'll give you the quick pitch here. So I born and raised in Dayton, Ohio. Family immigrated from India. So my dad, mom and dad came over from India. And, learned at an early age of business trade. My dad was he still is a businessman. He dabbled into independent hotels to convenience stores, the whole 9 yards. And so growing up, me and my brother, we had a chance to move air conditioners from one room to another, and really started to, learn that that hard work early on and the value of the dollar, So born and raised in Dayton, I went through the whole school system there. And then I ended up going to the Ohio State University here in Columbus. So I graduated in 2007 there with a degree in psychology, which you can't really do too much with that after you get that degree. So I was kind of in this flux of, hey, do I end up going to school? Do I enter the real world? And so I decided to just keep going to school. And so as soon as I finished up that degree, I moved back in with the parents in Dayton, and I started at the University of Dayton for my master's program. So I got a master's in public administration. I always had kind of an affinity towards government and politics and how city government worked. And so really wanted to kind of get the lay of the land there. And, it was back home. So I was saving some cash and living with mom and dad again. And so I went through that program and then finished up there and started doing some internships. And I landed a gig at the IRS for about 9 months, which was the weirdest experience of my life. And, not knowing how, government entities really worked on the inside, only lasted about 9 months. And then I started job hunting, really started job hunting. And then that's when I got an opportunity at Nationwide Insurance. And so a good buddy of mine was already in, and he was like, hey, I can at least get you through the door. And so that's where I kind of started my career. And so I was at Nationwide for 10 years in multiple roles, everything from sales operations to I was in the philanthropy side of things right before I exited. So in the corporate citizenship space as well. And, the 10 years that I was there, I always kind of had my hand in some sort of a a project or a startup. And I was always curious around the digital realm specifically, you know, social media content and marketing. And so each one of the startups that I kind of helped out, you know, from apparel companies to launching a food product, my role in that was always to play the social media strategy content development side. And so decided to put everything under all my experiences from web development, social content, a little bit of graphic design under one umbrella in April of 2018. And that's how Huumanize was kind of formed. And but I kind of did it just to make sure that I had everything in line from like an LLC perspective and things of that sort. And this was all outside of my day job, and I would only service a couple clients, you know, throughout the years. And then I got to this interesting point of kind of hitting this transition. Either I go in full time with Humanize, or I kind of just hang it up, because as you know, like you know, having two jobs, I mean, you're running this podcast right now on top of, you know, your job. It's like, it's one of those things that it takes a lot of time, right? It's one of those things that takes away from the family and things of that sort. So I was kind of in this weird flux. And as I was going through that last summer, I got a call from a good buddy of mine, Vikas Sondi, who's actually our managing partner now. And, you know, each conversation, and his background actually stems from digital marketing. He's a well-versed entrepreneur, had a couple businesses, got acquired, started working for the company that acquired him. And then he ended up leaving that company. And then we just reconnected. We had been friends for a long time, a lot of mutual friends. And his background is in digital marketing. And so I was like, hey man, I've got this Humanized thing on the side that I've been doing, you know, would there be an opportunity there somewhere to partner up possibly? And each, you know, meeting started getting better and better. And then I was like, let's just join forces and do this thing. And so he actually ran it full time for about 5 months last year and ramped the company up, you know, and I felt financially where it was going. I felt like now I could really go all in. So all it took was just partnering with the right person to kind of get me to where I am today. And so only been doing this full time since January of this year. And so, yeah, that's kind of the quick
yeah, man,
evolution of how.
I like it. I didn't want to interrupt you because I was actually enjoying the story. And you know, the algorithm is out there listening. The IRS is not weird. IRS, you guys are truly patriots. Do not take this the wrong way. All right. Everybody on this show wants to stay on the right side of the IRS. Okay. That's
Yes, sir.
the rule. All right. So you get your corporate experience, you hop into government, even though you wanted to see how government worked from a policy making standpoint. Working in government showed you that maybe, hey, your future was outside of that.
Yep.
So you cut your teeth, you start this business. I think to the point that you made about doing two things, like a full-time job and building a business on the side, is exponentially harder when you're the only one. So I understand
Exactly.
why through the decision making, it felt, because you were the only one, kind of do or die. Either I do one thing or the other. But bringing on a partner at least gave you that 5-month breathing room you needed to be able to make the transition and make it at a time that was appropriate and not rushed, because of how much of a burden it was putting on you. So you had Humanized, you started working with clients already, and you mentioned that, well, what can I do with a psych degree? I think you kind of found that because there's so much psychology involved in marketing.
Yep.
Right? I want you to talk about Humanize. What is Humanize? What do you guys do?
Yep.
What's the value proposition there for the clients that you work with?
Yeah, so that's I mean, you nailed it. You know, with my psych background, I think that's where this idea initially probably stemmed from, you know, somewhere back there. And so with Humanize, like what we talk about is, first off, we're a full service agency. So we do web development, graphic design, photography, videography, social content, social strategy. And then we're dabbling into the augmented reality space right now as well. So the Humanize aspect of it and the way the name came up was as I was kind of studying platforms and the evolution of how Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, all of these kind of platforms started evolving. The things that cut through the fat, in our opinion, are human stories at the end of the day, you know, of the internet. And because we're getting thrown ads at a rapid speed now, but having the CEO of a company tell their background and their story in a nice bundled up video piece of content is what we specialize in. We really want to bring the humans out from behind the curtain, whether it's a hotel and we're doing a spotlight on somebody that cleans the rooms, right? Like one of the maids, like they have a story behind why they're doing what they're doing, and they're happy at the end of the day in their day to day. And so it's our job as marketers, and for our clients to really showcase that human side of things. And that's where the name kind of stemmed from.
Okay, I love it. Now that's a heavy lift, right? Humanizing brands, right? We know Nike invests a great deal in these sports gods, right? So that their brand can be associated with winning or ultimate athletic performance, right? That's the way that they humanize themselves, through these sport gods that they that endorse them. We're going to talk about the average Joe, right? Without kind of the Nike budget to humanize themselves. How can someone take the principles upon which you built your company to start to do that for themselves? But before we do that, we got to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, all right? Support for 614 Startups comes from the law firm of Dickinson Wright. Those are my people over there, with around 500 attorneys working from 19 offices across the US and Canada. They handle all types of business transactional law, including advising privately held and venture-backed companies in capital raising, mergers and acquisitions, and transactions involving technology, software, data, and e-commerce. Partner Alex Brown, that's my homie, serves as outside general counsel to startup companies ranging from business entity selection and formation, protection and commercialization of technology assets, conducting business online, and data security issues. Data security is a huge thing right now. For more, and Bitcoin, that's crazy. Maybe we'll talk about that in the news later. All right, for more information, visit dickinsonwright.com. All right, they keep your company safe over there from the legal perspective. Okay, so humanize, I love it, right? We want to take, the CEO, nameless, faceless corporation, and we want to humanize it because we understand that that's the most effective way to do it. So when you look at a company or you look at a product, let's talk about the process that goes into that humanization. I mean, one of the things that you mentioned is the maid in the video, but I know there's a little bit more to the process than that. And then how does a small mom and pop 614 startups use some of these ideas to humanize themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've been fortunate to have the right partners since we got started. And, there's a level of trust there once you start getting into the ideation phase of actually content development. So we'll have extensive sessions with some of our client partners on, what's your story, what's your objective, and then who are some of the interesting stories within your organization. Let's start to spotlight some of them, right? And so what we'll do is put together an entire production plan around, let's bring this person into a studio, or we come to you, and then we set up our whole rig and everything with our videographer, photographer, all that there. And we just ask the right questions, right? The right probing questions. Sometimes it's easy. It's as easy as that. Sometimes it's a little bit tougher if there's a little bit more layers around like what you can and cannot say, from like a security standpoint or a legal standpoint. And so then, we have to just take a different approach on instead of, giving too much information of what's going on internally. How do we kind of do more brand level type of humanization, as we like to call it, right? So like, doing associate spotlights, but not giving a full blown story on them, or, doing partnership highlights for certain groups that we work with. And so it really depends on the client and what they're comfortable with at the end of the day. And to answer your second question of how can somebody like a mom and pop shop do this? I mean, this device right here is, I think my Zoom is not really capturing it, but the phone, the iPhone, like you can do so much with that piece of technology in your own home, right? Like, and I think that's actually what will win in the internet at the end of the day. And it already is starting to, that organic type of content where you're sitting in your office, you want to give your 2 cents about a certain topic. It doesn't have to be over fabricated or over, edited, and just put it out there, right? And then start testing of what your audience is really grappling onto. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the sell every single time. It's about giving a little bit about your personal perspective on things, and then partnering with the right influencer, and you'll be surprised of how you can do that at a very organic and cheap way, right? Like you can.
All right, so let me jump in there, okay? So if
Yeah, sure.
I'm hearing through your explanation. Number one, you got to decide who you are. I think for a lot of people, the temptation after they listen to this podcast is, oh, I do video, I do other employee spotlights. Let me just start doing that, right?
Yep.
But what is the process of exploring who your client is versus who they want to project on camera? Because it's one thing that they can say, oh, we love all of our janitorial staff. Meanwhile, the janitorial staff don't get vacation pay. They don't get FMLA benefits. Like it could be lacking congruence between what you're humanizing versus what you're actually experiencing. What is that process of truly understanding who you truly are, not just what you're putting on camera? How do you help your clients uncover that?
Yeah, I think it just comes back to having those right conversations, right? And building that trust. And I know it's way harder than it looks once we get to the final result. I think being open and finding the right partners, right? Like if you're sitting in my seat, I think the biggest thing that we look at is like, can we work with this partner long term? And are we going to be able to extrapolate information that social will like, and then in turn, create some sort of business development for them on a omni-channel approach, right? And so I think for us, because we are so new and have had just a limited amount of clients, and which has been great in all sorts of industries, I think it really just comes down to that level of trust and transparency with your partners at the end of the day. So
okay, so I know who I am. It is authentic, and I need to start humanizing myself. You lifted up the iPhone, right? Or the mobile device, right? Which camera, video, microphone, everything all in one, and then also a studio to broadcast out. In terms of the humanization process, what have you seen as the most powerful way of finding your target audience? Because there's this tribe, right, that your message is really going to resonate with. It's kind of part of the finding yourself is that you're going to find your tribe. What have you found is the most powerful way of finding your tribe, kind of narrowing it down, and then actually distributing your message to them, and then finding the right cadence? Because it's not something that you do once and it works forever. So what have you found in the work that you've been doing with your clients?
Yeah, I think it comes down to what are the core beliefs in the messaging that you want to get off first off, right? The foundation work of like, what does that messaging look like from an omni-channel approach, because email marketing is going to look different from social media. And, when you do a videography piece, that's going to look different as well. So I would say starting with a foundation of what's your core objective? And then you kind of get into the weeds as far as like how you're kind of deploy some of that content, and I think for us, it's a matter of testing a lot, because that's all it is, right? Like I think once you have one piece of content, it did okay, it only got a certain amount of engagement. We're looking at vanity metrics at the end of the day. But from the people that actually did engage with your content, that's when you're starting to slowly build your tribe, right? And so as you're deploying your messaging, you kind of want to look at, okay, well, what did I talk about on this piece of content? What did I talk about on this piece of content? What's resonating with folks? And then you kind of build this neat, almost like ecosystem of content that's going to resonate with one specific type of audience. And like, I'm a big believer in getting 7 likes as opposed to 7,000 likes, because those 7 likes are a lot more powerful in the long term, right? Like you can, there's bots out there that you can buy fake followers and you can, you know, get engagement bots and things of that sort. But getting that finite group of people for long term is the end goal for us. And so that was like a roundabout way of answering your question, but
No, you
you know,
did. You
yeah,
did.
yeah,
No, you did. Because there are vanity metrics and then there are real things and the power of testing, right? So right out of the
yep,
gate, you know you're going to need to do this. And I'll tell a personal story about this in
hmm
terms of the power of like social media and advertising and staying true to yourself. So I started this podcast back in 2017. It
yep,
was on the website, and then we put out content on social media, right? Doesn't matter how many people liked it, we kept putting out that content.
yep.
3.5 years later, we're now starting, we're closing, and I can't even say the name right now, a partnership with somebody that I wanted for a long time.
hmm
Didn't know that they were watching for the last 3.5 years,
It's
never
amazing, man.
commented, never liked, never shared, never attended an event, no contact. Then out of the blue, person comes to me and says, hey, for the last year, we have been talking about partnering with you, and now we're finally ready to partner with you. That is the power of this stuff. So let's talk about, you know, because
hmm
I think there are two
I love
schools,
that.
right?
Yeah,
Everybody complains about social media being such a waste of time, is a time suck, it's psychologically draining. I watched The
right.
Social Dilemma. There's that case, right, for social media.
Yeah, yeah,
And there's the other case that social media is so powerful it can destroy democracy, right?
yeah.
So is it this frivolous thing that's kind of you should get off? Or is it this almighty, all powerful thing? And how should people be thinking about, particularly for business owners, social media?
Yeah, and I think I mean that's a great question because you know, as we went through the last year and a half with COVID-19, I think that that has accelerated digital. Like if you were to ask me, I think we're living in like 2035 right now. You know, the way that digital actually accelerated in the last year and a half, the connectedness that we have on a digital front, the way that businesses are starting to dump more money into their digital marketing, it's massive, right? So you're talking to a guy that lives on social media, so I'm always going to be a proponent of like more, more, more. But I do
Legendary
get,
IG, legendary IG. You should follow my man Ron.
hey man, it's all my kids and my wife. You know, I just take credit for it. But yeah, so you know, I feel like that there has to be a balance there, and I understand. Like, and I've been reading a lot up on like, you know, like depression in young adults, right, from social media and things of that sort. So those are things that as parents we're going to have to coach them in the right way, you know, as they, because like my kids are literally going to walk into social media as it was here forever, where our generation got the best of both worlds. We were like pre-internet and now we're in the internet, you know. And so you know, it's been an interesting year and a half, and I feel like it's brought us together. And then there's the, you know, the people that just don't use it at all. And you know, it's funny. I had this conversation with a good buddy of mine who's a lawyer, and he just doesn't use social media. And he's like, man, like I feel like I've been a caveman like for the last like year and a half, because like, you know, he just doesn't, he doesn't do it. That's not his thing. And I respect that. You know, it's, some people have their thing, some people don't. But I would say, you know, as businesses, you definitely need to pick up the steam, because it's not going anywhere. If anything, we're going to be more connected, and as new technologies start to arise, it's actually a better business investment than getting a new office, right? I feel like pouring more money into your digital acceleration is just, it's going to be key for your personnel, the hybrid work models that we're starting to see all across the board. Yeah. So, I mean, not only from social media, but I would say from your digital marketing lens as well, from, you know, email marketing, Google ads, like you need to be out there. in my
There's a
opinion.
reason
Yeah.
why these companies are so large and they keep growing. And, it's not that they're not producing a return on investment for those that invest money in it, right? People are getting
Right.
results, which is why they continue to use it. And since we're on the topic of money and how money should be leveraged, I got to give a shout out to this sponsor because that's what they do. All right. Support
Yes,
for
sir.
614 Startups comes from Bernstein Private Wealth Management, Columbus-based team of professional advisors. In a world where most investment managers look alike, Bernstein Private Wealth Management has evolved into an organization like no other. Some money managers look to add value after a business is sold, but they deliver proactive advice right from the start. Whether you're eyeing an exit or you've just launched, they are fully committed to your financial success. From turnkey retirement plan solutions for your business to how to make the most out of a direct listing to what to know before you IPO, they serve as their clients' most trusted financial partner, solving complex challenges that extend well beyond wealth management. If you're interested in partnering with Bernstein on your entrepreneurial journey, visit www.bernstein.com to learn more. That's bernstein.com to learn more. Bernstein, fully invested in better outcomes. All right, got to talk about money, making money, managing money. Very,
Yes,
very
sir.
important. All right, so let's move on to the next thing. Let's talk about brand and branding. So we want to humanize these, but we've talked about social media. It's a no-brainer. You have to invest in it. Don't let the metrics fool you. There are people watching, right? They may never like, they may never comment, they may never engage. All of a
Yep.
sudden, they might become a customer. Don't get fooled by the metrics. But let's talk about brand and using social media or borrowing brand equity, right? Like you said, you might tell the story of a CEO or of another employee, or maybe you tell
Mhm.
the story of how you've helped a customer. I see on social media a lot this idea of using ambassadors or other people to endorse your brand. So let's talk about the core of what branding is and in borrowing brand equity to achieve your goals. What are
Sure.
your thoughts there?
Yeah, so with branding in general, I mean, that's the single most important thing as a company. And, I think there's a ton of course, strategy and ideation that would go into how you enhance your branding, right? And so we get in those discussions with our client partners a ton, and really the emotional tug that you can have, with a product, with your company it's the bread and butter. Like I feel like, we look up to the Nikes and the Under Armours and the Pumas and how they have deployed their commercials, and the way they do it is, I mean, it's fascinating to me to like, have your adrenaline running through, a sports athlete, right? And in a boxing ring or wherever that is. And then, it kind of flips a switch where they lost the fight and now they're back in their locker room and they're crying and they're sobbing. So you're kind of going through this like emotional roller coaster with the athlete and whoever that is. And I think that, that's the single most important thing to like really showcase a brand is like, are you emotionally tied to it? Because you're gonna be a return customer. You're gonna be loyal to that brand at the end of the day if you've had just a tiny bit of that emotional play there. And I think brand ambassadors, as you mentioned, can help that, right? Like influencers and things of that sort that can really put their spin on it. Or maybe a different spin of what the original branding objective was, and that'll resonate with another audience. And so I think that whole encompassing omni-channel approach for branding is extremely important
That's
for
fantastic. And
companies.
that's what we
Yeah.
hope for this brand, right? Which is why we put it right in the name, who we are, right? Easy to recognize. I think a lot of great brands do that, right?
Yep.
Um, and then staying consistent, right? We're a media company. We need to be producing content every single week. We need to be bringing on interesting guests, having great guests. So
Yep.
all of that is contributing to your overall brand building. But the thing that
Hmm.
I brought you on, because like you said, we're living in 2035 when it comes to social media. Nobody needs social media explained to them. But there is this new frontier of augmented reality, right? So
Yes,
we've
sir.
been two-dimensional, two-dimensional, two-dimensional. Now the content is being pushed into the real world, right? So why don't you define, because I know this is an area that Humanize really excels in and specializes in,
Hmm.
the moving from a two-dimensional world to a three-dimensional world where our content starts to interact with us in our world.
Yep. So I guess the simple definition of augmented reality is placing digital objects in the physical world. And now that could be done in a couple different ways and deployed in a couple different ways. So the one is on your smartphone. So you guys have seen, you've definitely probably played with like Snapchat filters, right? Where you can change your face into a dog. That's a form of augmented reality, you know, like where you're able to like layer on into our existing reality. Now, there's a couple different ways, like a couple of different ways you can house AR pieces. So there's social platforms like Snapchat, Facebook, and Instagram filters where you can do that. And then there's also web-based AR, which would live on a website. Now, it's a lot newer. It's only been around for a few years now, where you know, there's no app needed. So you can go to target.com and you can click on a couch and drop that couch in your living room, right? Just all through the web browser. Now it's a super innovative way of not only selling, but then going back to the brand building part of building your brand from a blanket of marketing services. And so we've been fortunate enough to start building AR filters for, I mean, we've done stuff with VaynerMedia. We just finished one with we finished 3 of them for American Eagle. And then Title Sport, which is one of our bigger clients as well. And so, you know, that's kind of my department at Huumanize, because I love the innovation wing and kind of staying on top of like AR technologies. And so we've done that from a filter standpoint. We've also done label experiences, like AR label experiences. What I mean by that is if you're a wine drinker, there's a bottle out there called 19 Crimes, where you can download the app and you put your phone up to it, and then like they'll tell the story about of how they got put in jail. And it's a really neat user experience, you know, for that specific label experience. So we've done things with Bullet Bourbon and a small liquor store down in Tennessee, where we partnered together to make a bourbon label come alive. So that was a neat experience, and we did that as a web-based AR experience. And so we're at the very, very beginning stages of augmented reality, but I'm so gung-ho on it because I feel like, you know, if you look at all the big tech companies and where they're putting their money in, from the Apples, the Googles, everybody has an augmented reality department, and that's not by chance. That's on purpose, because they know, you know, it's probably going to be sooner, probably like 5 to 6 years from now, my glasses that I'm wearing are going to be AR enabled. So like if I'm walking down High Street and I want to see where the happy hour is going on and the bar specials, I'm going to hit the side of my glasses, and there's going to be notifications that hit me as I'm walking down the street, like, hey, we've got we got a beer special going on right now. You might want to stop in and show them your ad, right? Or tell the bartender that you saw this ad. And so wearables are going to be the next big boom. I honestly think, in my opinion, that it's going to be just as powerful as the iPhone as we move forward.
So you talked about having the generation that didn't have any of this stuff and growing up part of your life in that generation, and then growing up in this fast moving generation where they're used to this stuff, right? They're in the soup.
Yeah.
I remember there used to be the days where like people would be like, oh, what if you could make a phone call and see somebody else? Like that would be like, now we're not even like, whatever, right? FaceTime. What do you like?
Yeah.
It's so it gets so old so fast, right? There's nothing amazing. The fact that you're describing that, and I'm almost like, okay, glasses with the notification thing, whatever. But the advances are happening so quickly. Let's talk about brands, like for example, with the pandemic, right? All of these retailers who weren't ready to be online. And you know, when the stores closed, their businesses closed. They had no other means of kind of tapping into new technology and creating new sources of revenue. What is the danger for the companies who fail to keep up with this, whether they have a personal aversion to it or not, right? If I'm a store owner, I sell vintage toys and I don't want to sell it online, what is the cost to making decisions that are personally based that actually impact your business? You have to separate the two, don't you?
Absolutely. And I think you have to follow the attention at the end of the day. Where is the attention? Like, so if you look at where 90% of our day goes, it's stuck in our phone and or on a laptop, right? So if you're not out anywhere on the digital web, internet, you're behind and you're already behind, and I feel like that's okay. That's okay, because if this conversation sparks that, hey, I need to do more LinkedIn posts, for my company, then that's a win for us, right? For this podcast. And I think that, like, you can always start, but it's around consistency. It's about starting to try and test new things from an innovation standpoint, and really having that be a focal point as we move forward, in this new digital society, because it's not going anywhere. As I mentioned, I mean, we're at, like, Gary Vee says this all the time, how we're cavemen right now on the internet. And, it's crazy how quickly, like, when I look at how my son and even my 2-year-old daughter can literally scroll through YouTube, and she's picking cocoa melon and she's jumping from video. She's 2 years old and she knows how to operate a pretty technologically advanced device, so I mean, these kids are already ahead of us, and then I think it's just going to be amazing for us to kind of keep up. It's going to be a challenge for a lot of us to keep up, and especially a lot of businesses that are not doing it just yet. I think it's about just reading, testing, hiring the right folks, for your organization. So
Yeah, and I think to the point about the kids and adoption, right? These tech companies are moving further and further up the customer journey. So
mhm.
the idea that, in 6 years, wearables are going to dominate, that means that most of the people who are going to be early adopters of wearables, those customers that are coming on board, are being prepared to only look through the lens of wearables, right? So it's going to be as if your business, so even if you have a robust presence on, SEO, and you're number one now, when
Yep.
nobody's searching for you that way and it's all wearables, you don't start when that shift happens. You start now, so you are ahead of that shift. But what are you
Exactly.
finding when you're do you find that customers are coming to you and understanding the disadvantage that they're putting their businesses at when they're not adopting 6 years early? Like, you're telling me this, right? And
Yep.
some part of me is hearing it, right?
hmm
And saying, oh, yeah, that's nice. 6 years, we'll see. But there's another part that says, oh, you need to have an augmented segment now, right? Like right now, because if 614 startups is to be found and relevant in the future,
Yep.
that work needs to begin now. So what are you finding? Are people walking in your door and taking your suggestions and reacting now? Or are you finding that you're still having to convince people that these changes are real?
Yeah, I think it's twofold, and it depends on the client of how open they are to the future forward innovation, right? A lot of our clients, luckily, have been given us the opportunity to build out at least AR filters for them, on social. And I think that's a step in the right direction. Like, it builds brand awareness. You can look at the metrics; they work. People are engaging with the quizzes that we put together on your forehead, on whatever product you're pushing, and things of that sort. Like, that stuff, it's working, and I think it's a part of their and I keep saying omni-channel marketing. With the marketers that do get it, they understand that this is a new technology that they're going to need to stay ahead of, and so they're giving us that opportunity to test and learn, for them. And so I think it's the basis of the beginning of once wearables are in play, and things will change, right? Like, I think that it's our job as marketers to keep up with the trends of how, like, this podcast eventually, I'll be able to see you in this room, through my wearable, and it'll even create a more intimate experience between me and you and our conversation, right? And so I think that's coming. It's just a matter of, are you willing to test it right now? Because a lot of people do say, oh man, it's kind of gimmicky, it's comicky, but there's a ton of data and research that's been done of how it can help, a claims adjuster, right? Like, let's say, you're evaluating a certain building, and you want to go through training. And, as a claims adjuster, you have to go in that physical building now and look at some of the damage, and then write that estimate and things of that sort. Now you would be able to do it in AR, which is going to it's going to save the company money because you're building a virtual environment. Plus, if you look at, like, retention rates around, like, how much people are actually soaking this information in when they're going through that simulation, it's astounding, right? So I feel like I think businesses need to start thinking about it. I mean, no one's gonna, watch this podcast and be like, we need an AR department. At least just start reading up on it, because we're there, we're getting there. So,
all right, man. Listen, that's how you'll know how powerful this platform is. If people start calling you like, we need AR right now. We heard it on the podcast. We're convinced. We're sold on it. So with all the work that you're doing, like you said, you're doing this thing full time now. You're helping people with their branding, helping them humanize, helping them with social, helping them with AR, and all the omni-channel marketing they need to do.
Yeah.
So what's next for Humanize?
I think it's just, in the startup world, just staying afloat, making sure we're taking care of our clients. Yeah, I think that's the number one thing for us, is like we go into not client relations, we go into partnerships, with long-term partnerships with our clients. And I feel like I think it's my job and Vigas's job to make sure that our team is staying afloat and they've got good balance, right? Because in the startup world, we demand a lot out of them, but it's our job to make sure that, you can check out and be with your families at night and take those vacations on the weekends and things of that sort. Because, from having friends in the startup world, you're working and we are still working like 7 days a week, but we also, we break it up and we try and have fun and things of that sort. So for me, it's about culture moving forward for Humanize and making sure we've got the right talent in place just so we can execute on the highest level of deliverables from a content standpoint, web standpoint, AR standpoint, all that. So yeah,
you guys are off to a good start. You got some notable clients, VaynerMedia, and some of the others. So you guys are taking steps in the right direction. And for the clients who get it and are willing to adopt early on, I think you have a big market opportunity there. So we're going to take one last break. Thank you so much, Ron, for joining me on this show. I want to give a special shout out because support for the 614 Startups podcast comes from Hairdrop. All right, so Hairdrop is the first startup, right, partner of the 614 Startups podcast. So we're super proud to have Hairdrop as a sponsor. Never visit the beauty supply store again. Order your beauty products from Hairdrop. From the Hairdrop app and have them delivered in an hour or less. Hairdrop is like DoorDash for beauty products. Get your hair care, grooming tools, hair extensions, and more when you need them to ensure you look and feel your best at all times. Available for download from both the Apple and Google Play stores. Get a beauty store in your pocket by visiting www.hairdrop.app and have your beauty delivered today. All right, Ron, I can see right now a collaboration between Hairdrop and Humanize to get me a toupee augmented reality joint. All right, so let's have some fun with that, man. Let's see your capabilities.
I got you, man. I got you.
Have an augmented reality toupee delivered to the studio so I can have a new look. All right, Ron, I really enjoyed this. I think the thing that stood out for me the most is that these changes are happening so quickly. As a business person, you have to separate your own personal views and do what's right for the business. Having your business innovate and move with the times and move with the customers are going to be absolutely critical. We know what the failure rate is like for businesses that don't innovate. It's not just for big companies, because in order for us to have a robust economy, we need a robust small business sector. And the only way to survive the times is to adopt, okay, or adapt. All right, guys, that's a wrap. That's the show. You can find this in all episodes on our website, 614startups.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and of course, YouTube and all your favorite podcasting platforms. Don't forget to subscribe and write a review. If you would like an update sent to your inbox, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter on the website. To engage in the 614 Startups community, of course, we're on social. Follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at 614 Startups to join the conversation. For sponsorship opportunities to collaborate on my toupee, email us at info@614startups.com. Peace.